Hey guys, it's Yvette and I am here with week 2 of sewing for Fort Worth Fabric Studios Love Supreme quilt. And this week we're going to be making our heart blocks. So awesome time to be making some heart blocks. And let's go over real quick what we're going to be using fabric wise. Okay, so for week 2, see if I can get down to A. This is the fabric for the A fabric, which is the white with the words. I love white. I love fabric with words on it. So that's the white fabric we're going to be using. In total, we have 10 5¼ inch squares, and then we have 40 2½ inch squares. Okay, and then we also have B and C fabric, and we have 10 each of these at 4½ inch square. And then we have our D and E fabric, which we have each 10 5¼ inch squares. Okay, so this is all the fabric we're going to be using this week. All seams are 1/4 inch unless they're otherwise noted. RST means right sides together. Number 1, use the A fabric squares, the larger ones, 5 D squares, which is half of these, and 5 E squares to create half square triangle blocks. Draw lines corner to corner on the wrong side of all of the A squares. Pair the squares right sides together as follows. Okay, so basically we're going to be taking all of these and then half each of these, and we're going to match them up with the white squares. And then we're going to be drawing a line diagonally down the middle, and then we're going to stitch 1/4 inch on either side of that line that we draw down the middle, and then we're going to cut on the line that we drew down the middle, and using the block lock ruler we can then press the seams either open or toward the darker print, and then after we make them we're going to trim each one to 4½ inch square. I love when they do that because I'm telling you, I just find that Fort Worth Fabric Studio does a great job of making sure that the block, by the time we are finished, is large enough that we can cut it down to the size we need. And there's not a huge amount of waste. You know what I mean? And that kind of gives those new or beginning or whatever you want to call yourself, quilters, a little bit of leeway there. So if you do make a little bit of a mistake, maybe you can still salvage it. It's really great. I love that they do that. So that is step 1. After we make those, step 2, we are going to take our 40 2½ inch squares, the white fabric, and we're going to take 10 of the B squares, which is all of them. So we're going to take the B squares and the C squares, and we're going to create some heart tops. And the way that we do that is we draw lines corner to corner on the wrong side of all the A fabrics. And then we're going to place the A squares on the upper left corner of all the B and C squares, right sides together. You're going to stitch on that line. And yes, we can chain piece them, and I'll show you that when we get to that part. We're going to trim to a 1/4 inch seam allowance, press the seams open or toward the darker fabric. And then we're going to place the rest of the A squares on the upper right corner of the B and C squares and do the same thing. Okay, and then once we have that done, then we're going to trim them down, and they should measure 4½ inch square. But they do tell us to make sure that we don't trim off our points. So I will be sure to show you what that means whenever we get to that part. Okay, so number 3 is the heart block assembly. Oh my gosh, look how cute. Okay, that's going to be adorable. I can't wait till all our hearts are done. Okay, so basically we're just going to take the squares that we made in step 1 and step 2, and we're going to arrange them, and then we're going to sew them together, and we will have 10 blocks all together by the time we're done. And we're going to make sure that they measure approximately, that's what I say because mine are never perfect, approximately 8.5-inch square. Okay, so those are all of our instructions. I pretty much have it in my head now that we've read through the whole thing, what we're going to be doing. So let's start with number 1. So it means I can take the B and C fabric and scooch it over, and I can take these 2.5-inch squares and scooch them over. And these are the ones we're going to be using. Here I am. I'm going to end up cleaning like 100 times. Okay, and the A squares. Now they want us to draw a line corner to corner on the back of all of our A squares. So I'm going to do that. I got to stop cleaning. Okay, so I am going to take one at a time. It's nice thick fabric. Kind of wasn't expecting that. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that. It's kind of a silly thing. Okay, so what you can do is this. It makes it pretty simple. If you are using a Creative Grids ruler, it's perfect because they have these 45-degree lines that are on all of their rulers. So if you take the 45-degree line, either one, it doesn't matter which one, and you line it up along one of the edges, and what you'll do is the very point you'll have on the very point here, yeah, the cats are fighting again, don't worry. And if you have this 45-degree line directly on the edge and the point right on the end, when you put down the other side, it's going to go exactly where it needs to go. And then you can just draw this line. You just have to be able to see the line. It doesn't have to be real dark. You don't have to keep going, you know, unless your pen's running out of ink, then you might need to do that. I find that happens sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to line this up and put it directly on the end. And there we go. Okay, I have all of my lines drawn on the white fabrics. I am going to take 5 of each of these. Oh, there are only 5. Oh, I see what they're saying. Okay, never mind. I don't know why I was thinking. Never mind. I'm not even going to go there. Okay, so we're going to take our D and our E fabric, and they're going to go right sides together on the A fabrics, and we are going to sew the 1/4-inch line on either side of the line that goes diagonally down the middle. So on each one, we're sewing 2 lines. Okay, I have my 2 red fabrics, which are the D and the E, and here are my A fabrics. I'm going to just take them one at a time, put them together, right sides together, and sew them on either side of the line down the middle, okay? And I'm going to chain piece these. So if you are unfamiliar, you will see what that is. I just want to make sure they are as close to perfectly on top of each other as we possibly can get them. Okay. I'm just using white thread. I am going to lower my stitch length to 1.4 millimeters so that I can press mine open. That's just my preference. Okay, so now that I have taken all 10 of these and sewed down one side, which is a 1/4 inch past the middle line, so basically the outside on the right, now I'm going to flip them over and I'm going to chain piece them and sew down the other 1/4 inch line. So that's what I'm going to do next. Here we go. All right, so I'm back at the cutting mat to cut these in half. So we're gonna do a cut diagonally down the middle, down the first line that we drew. So we'll take one at a time. I think I need one of the rulers that's a little bit longer, just to be on the safe side here. And what you can do is, if you use your 1/4 inch mark right here, which it does tell you that it's a 1/4 inch, if you take that 1/4 inch line and you put that line on the line that you stitched on the left side of the square, then you're gonna be at the middle. That way you're not having to try to figure out, again, like making sure it's right down the middle. Because if you have your line on that 1/4 inch line, then you're just cutting a 1/4 inch from there and that's it. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I have my triangles all separated, and now we are going to do some pressing. So the first thing I'm going to do, personally, I like to press my seams open, so that's what I'm going to do on the majority of them. But just for those of you guys who are choosing to press to the dark side and then trim using the block lock ruler, I'm going to show you how to do that first. Okay, so you'll take your fabric. Let's use one of these. You're going to take your triangle, and here is where the line is. Now, since we are pressing to the dark side, which is obviously the red, you want to have the red on top. Okay. And we are just going to give it a quick press just to close that seam. I say this every time, just in case you're the first time watcher. When we sew, we are punching like thousands of little holes in our fabric. So before we do any pushing on the seam that we just sewed, it's a great idea to put a hot iron on it just for a second to help close up those holes and grip your fabric better. So that's the only reason we do that. And actually, I learned that from Jenny over at Missouri Star. I was watching her videos and I heard her say that, and I've been doing it ever since. So, and there are definitely no adverse reactions to that. So I just keep doing it. Okay. Now, once you have pressed to one side, which is what you need to do if you are going to, the iron's in the way of the light. If you're going to use the block lock ruler, then you really do need to press to one side. So you're going to press to the darker side, whichever that happens to be when you're making a quilt. Now you're going to take, because this is going to be trimmed to, okay, so these are 4.5 inch squares. So here's a little hint, and you know, I probably shouldn't like just say stuff like this, but here's the truth. If you don't need to have a 4.5 inch block lock if you are making a 4.5 inch square. You can use either a 4.5 inch block lock or any block lock that's larger than that, because you can use obviously the numbers that are on the ruler to get it down to the 4.5, right? So I do have these right now, but I also have like a 12.5 inch block lock, which I can use for pretty much any block. Any size block, unless you have like a block that's larger than 12.5, then you're going to have a problem. But we're going to go ahead and I'll just show you using the 4.5, since we are going to be cutting our squares down to 4.5. All right. So what you want to do is you're going to put your ruler onto, well, this is crazy. Why is it like that? I don't use it very much. I have to tell you that. Okay, so okay, so there is a little channel in here, and where my finger is, there's literally like there's a step down, and then from even the other side there's a step down. So that piece of plexi that is right there on the edge catches on your seam, and that's why you need to have a seam that is pressed to one side, because it'll give you that little lip, and that little lip is what this is going to catch on to hold it in the correct place. Okay, so all right, when you're cutting, you want to make sure that your block lock symbol, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, you want to have it like on one side. It's gonna move. See what happens here? So like I move it and it like, okay, Lord have mercy. I am like terrible with these things. I really am, because I don't do them. I never use a block lock. I always use like a regular ruler. So I have to like remember every time after I do it. Okay, that's the wrong way. It has to be the wrong way. There we go. Okay, I'm just using the bigger one because I see it better when it's the big one. I don't know why. Okay, so we're going to be cutting these down to 4.5 inch square. We want to make a trim on all 4 sides. So in order to do that, we have to make sure that when we make our first 2 cuts, we have fabric past the area that the block needs to be. So this line right here is 4.5, and this line right here is 4.5, and we still have plenty to trim. So that's where I'm going to trim on this first side, or the first 2 sides. Okay, once we do that, we're going to be flipping it to the other side. I keep forgetting I got to move the ruler too. Okay, so now we want it to measure at 4.5. And so in order to do that, you want to pull it down toward you, because that'll bring the seam down. And this is going to stay caught right on your seam. Okay, now this one's pretty much dead on. This one has like a hair more than 4.5, so I'm just going to leave that. That's where I'm going to do my cut. And bada bing, bada boom, we have our 4.5 inch square. Okay, so here's the thing. I actually like using the block lock ruler. I really do. My issue is that I just find my seams lay flatter if I press my seams open. And so that's why I typically do it that way instead of the other way. However, I've decided just now that in order to help you guys really get the hang of the block lock, and, you know, by the time I do all of these, I will have the hang of it too. I'm going to go ahead and just do them this way. And if we have any more half square triangles, then maybe I'll do it my way and show it show it to you that way, because I can do it both ways. I just have less practice with this one. So let's get going. Okay, I think I might have to eat my words here because I just did it properly, and actually that was pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, so what I'm going to do is whichever direction you have pressed toward, so toward the dark side, I'm going to put that on the top left. Wherever your Block Lock logo is, put it on the bottom right. Okay, it's going to catch right there, and look, there's fabric all the way around, and I know that this is 4.5 inches. So now all I have to do is trim all the way around that. Oh my goodness. I love Fort Worth Fabric Studio people. And listen, I'm still learning new stuff. This is pretty cool. I'm like so excited. Now I want every size. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. This is so nice. And the thing is that I use it so little that I forget which way I'm supposed to have the logo, which way I'm supposed to do that. I just need to use it more often, and it'll be like secondhand. That's what I need to do. All right, let's just scooch that up for now and clean up later. Oh my goodness. Oops, wrong way. There we go. Oh my goodness, look at that. Alrighty, that went pretty quick. I love it. Okay, so now I have my trimmed blocks. I'm going to scooch them to the side because now we're going to go on to our step 2. And step 2 for me is going to have to be picked up tomorrow night because I have a live to do tonight. So I'm going to go and have I'm gonna go have a little bite to eat and get a cup of coffee ready, and then come back and do my live, and then I will see you here tomorrow night to continue on step 2, because I am so excited about this quilt this time. I don't know what it is, the reds, the fact that it's Valentine's, I have no idea, but I am really enjoying this. So I can't wait to come back tomorrow night, and I'll see you then. Okay, so I'm back with the part 2 or number 2 on the Fort Worth Fabric Studios Love Supreme quilt. These are our heart blocks. We have completed number 1 right here, and now we're ready for number 2. So we're going to use our 40 A squares, which are 2.5-inch squares. We're going to use our 10 B squares and our 10 C squares, and we're going to create the heart tops. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to draw a line corner to corner on the wrong side of all of our A squares. And then we're going to place all of or 20 of them on the top left. We're going to do our trimming and pressing, and then we're going to go and do the top right with the white on the other side, and that's going to make our heart top like this. See? And then we'll be using these heart tops with the heart bottoms that we've just made for part 1 or number 1, and that's going to assemble our block. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. So I'm going to draw the lines diagonally on my A squares on the back. So I'm going to flip them over. And let's see. I'm going to use a smaller ruler. Okay, here we go. Now when you're doing this, you can either just eyeball it, because really you're just going corner to corner. So you just eyeball where you're putting your ruler, and you can do that. Or you can use your 45-degree line like we've done on the other ones, where we get that line along one of the sides, and you want to make sure the very tip is toward the top, and then it should come down to that, but for some reason it's not. I probably have something not all the way up, or there we go. I didn't have it all the way up. So if I do that, then we are right where the line needs to be. But to me, that just seems like a whole lot of fuss when all you have to do is go corner to corner. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna trust my eyeballs and go corner to corner. Okay, so I have my 2.5-inch squares ready. I am going to take my B and C fabric. So I'm going to take my white squares that I have the line drawn diagonally across, and I am going to stitch down to the top left of each of my squares. And I want the line that I have drawn to go from basically bottom left, but of here, up to the middle. So you want to start your line up at the middle and end down left, and that's because we're going to trim off this way, and then this will fold over, and that will be part of the heart. So that's what we're going to do, and here we go. And since I am going to press open, I have shortened my stitch length to 1.4 millimeters. If you don't have exactly 1.4, then you can do 1.5 or anything close. Okay, I have stitched from corner to corner and I'm ready to trim. We are going to put our 1/4 inch line on the seam that we just stitched. Sorry about that. and we are cutting 1/4 inch from there on all of these squares. Okay, now we're ready to press the seams, and I'm going to press mine open. Okay. I'm just letting the iron warm up a little bit. Hey, Jellybean. You want to get back on your spot? Okay. Now we're ready to head on over to the sewing machine and sew down our second white 2.5 inch square to the other side. The reason why we make sure to put on one side, make the cut, and then press before adding the other one is because right here in the middle, they need to overlap. And that's what makes sort of the flying geese look that we're going for on the heart. And so now we're going to go do that. Okay, now we're gonna trim off the other side. Here we go. Okay, now we're going to press our heart blocks. Okay, so now that we have those finished, oops, I'm sure it's supposed to be like that. We are going to be putting these together, and let me see what this says. Okay. Okay, they want to make sure that these finish at 4.5 inches. So let me just take this. Looks like they're going to be fine. They said to trim only if needed, and so I personally don't think it really needs it, so I'm going to leave them. Let's see. So now we're on number 3, and on number 3 we are at the heart block assembly. Here we are going to arrange the blocks according to figure 5, which is here. What was our B fabric? B, I don't remember what it was. Do I have another B up here? Let's see. G, F, C, A. Well, what's C? Because C goes, okay, so, oh, look, somehow I got it how they wanted it to be. And then D and E, what do we have up here? Anything? What's that? I. Okay, I don't remember which one was D. So one of these was D and one of these was E. And we're supposed to put D on the left and E on the right. I'm going to say that I like how it looks this way, I think. Can always switch it around. But see, whenever you do this way, I think that we're heavy on the dark red here. So I'm going to leave them there. So no matter what, this is the way I like it best, so I'm going to put them together this way. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to sew the top row together, and I'm going to sew the bottom row together with 1/4 inch seams. And as soon as I do that, I will come back and we will draw our lines to connect the top row to the bottom row, and then we'll have our hearts all set. Okay, so I have sewn all of the top pieces together and the bottom pieces together. And first thing we're going to do after that is we're going to press them. So let me get that done. Okay, so now that we have those sewed together, top and bottom, now we are going to sew the bottom to the top. And I draw lines. You guys know that I draw my seam allowance. So if you don't, then you can just put these together and head over to the sewing machine. But I'm going to go ahead now and draw my seam allowance lines. Now what I do with the pressed, since I press my seams open, is I will just put them on top of each other and I fold it back and I just look at these lines connecting right there, and I can see that that is where I want to have them stay. So I will leave that there, and I just make sure that the others are, you know, that it just goes evenly across after that. Okay, last step, guys. We are just going to press our squares open, and I keep saying squares. I guess I should say block. I don't know. And then once we do that, we sort of need to measure that they are 8.5 inches square. And I am just crossing my fingers that they are okay, to be honest with you. But let's get our pressing done and then we'll measure. Okay, guys, they're all sewed together, and I always feel when I get to this point that I'm being like graded on a test. But let's go ahead and see. We need them to be 8.5 inches square. 1 second. Okay, this is a 9.5 inch. So what I'm trying to get to, if I go this way, is I'm trying to get to 8.5 by 8.5. Let's just see where we are. Okay, so as usual, my blocks are short in some areas because my seams go all wah, wah, wah on the edges. I'm sure they're all going to be exactly like this because this is just how my blocks always turn out. I never have perfect blocks, like ever. I think I would probably pass out if I ever measured my blocks and they were where they were supposed to be. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about it. I call that 8.5. That's what I call that. And the blocks came out really nice. My points seem to match up on most of them. Look, that's almost there. And that one's good. And that one's good. I like that one. That looks good. Yepers. I like that one. Hey, you know what? I think that they are pretty darn perfect. I'm liking them a lot, and I'm happy. So I am going to close for tonight until next week, and I hope you guys have a great time sewing. Thank you so much for watching.